next thing I knew, I was not there anymore, and Billy Warlock was now me.
Yeah, talk about a major change. I mean, I love Billy too, but I mean, there's night and day difference between you guys as far as physicality goes.
Yeah, and you know, there were some I think some misunderstandings. Again, just really it's predicated on what I'm saying about contracts and you know, and not contracting people. You don't have their time, and so. That was kind of an interesting side effect of that way of doing things, but so that's again to be responsive to your question, Dave. That's, you know, the atmosphere changed dramatically, and the atmosphere of fear was in the air. It's like you just didn't know what was happening, and when I was on One Life, you know, there were crazy stuff was happening. It just kind of got dropped on you like a bomb, you know, all my children moving to L.A. and One Life moving into the old All My Children studios, and I mean that kind of came out of nowhere, and so you got a sense that the wheels were turning upstairs, and you didn't know how things were going to play out. So, but you know, it has played out. It's interesting that, you know, the cancellations happen. That sucked, but then you had this online resurgence, which, you know, remains to be seen how this is going to go. So I don't know. I haven't seen any. Have you guys watched the online versions of those shows?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yes, we have. Yes.
Yeah, and they've done a wonderful job with it. Like you said, you don't know if it's going to turn out cheap looking or not, and it really isn't. I mean, I think they've done a wonderful job with it. And, you know, there's even times where I've looked at a scene and thought, wow, that's even better than TV.
Well, good.
So,
I think they can do more online, right?
Yeah,
they can get a little spicier.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and they have.
They have, and they've actually pulled back from some of that.
They should. I think they should, because I think it's weird, you know, to hear. Can we cuss on this, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to start dropping F-bombs, but it's weird to hear your favorite. Like, I can't see Jake Martin saying shit or fuck or whatever. It would seem really odd, you know. But there does, I think, need to be some, I think, dedication to the more conservative elements of that kind of storytelling. But I think it's fantastic. I was excited to hear that they, you know, were able to get online and did well. You know, I think the stalling out right now is just to make sure, again, there's quality product. So I think it's all good. You know.
Most definitely. They were actually getting very spicy at one point, and they had to pull back because some of the viewers were complaining.
Yeah. You got to keep in mind who your viewers are. I know they want to get new viewers, but your bread and butter is you know, those folks that have been watching for many, many years, and I'm sure they're going to want to see. I don't know. Are people naked?
There was a couple of scenes that
showing more.
I mean, you don't see really frontal, but you know, you saw a butt here and there, and it was more. I think what more bothered them was the actual swearing.
Yeah, it did, and they had to cut back. They made that decision to cut back on that.
That makes sense. I don't think that, you know, swearing has its place, but it doesn't seem to, its place doesn't seem to be on the online versions of popular network soap operas.
Yeah, and you know what I think too? I think that if All My Children was, say, a new show and they started out that way, that would be a different story.
Right.
But since they've been on for 40 plus years and people have watched them on television with their grandmothers, you know, you kind of get used to it being like that. And when they're all of a sudden, boom, they're throwing in all this new stuff, it's like, oh, hello.
It's very jarring. And like Tainted Dreams, we do swear, but you don't have a yardstick to compare us to in terms of, you know, there wasn't a Tainted Dreams on network before to compare to. And again, it's like I said, it's not your traditional, it's not a soap opera, I don't think. So I think it fits. And you know, and it's certainly what happens when you're working on a soap opera. There's no shortage of salty language.
And
Fuck, what's my line?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see those type of outtakes on YouTube. The real behind-the-scenes things, you know.
Yeah.
I always thought that would be funny.
They're fun to watch. Outtakes.
Yeah, there's one circulating on bloopers. Dick Clark, you know, Dick Clark had that bloopers show for many years, and Michael Knight. There was one of not my best moments, but there apparently was a bat in the studio, and at some point Michael and I were doing a scene, and the bat literally flew between us, and I jumped off the couch like a little girl. It was not really one of my finer moments. Screech.
Oh.
And Michael was just, you know, he was like a rock. He was just unmoved by the flying rodent, but it was, you know, not something you anticipate when you're working. Have a bat coming at you at Mach 2, you know.
That's funny. Well, there is one thing I wanted to ask you is when you were in a scene at one point on One Life to Live with Cassie DePaiva, I saw a glimpse of a tattoo on your back. Is that a real one?
Yeah, I got a tattoo on the left side, on my left shoulder blade. It's a memorial tattoo actually. Yeah, I sometimes forget it's there. I don't forget it's there. It's a memorial tattoo for a friend of mine, but when pictures and stuff, I'm like, oh, you know, the tattoo's there. I know in Tainted Dreams we have a few love scenes in Tainted Dreams. Not like it, you know, I can see the tattoo in a lot of scenes, but it's a memorial tattoo for a friend of mine who the symbol is of a fighter, and it was really kind of the letterhead of his foundation. He was afflicted with Lou Gehrig's disease as a young man, and this was right around the time I was on All My Children, and he fought it through his late 20s and early 30s, and passed away. So it's you know, I one of the reasons I'm not really a tattoo guy, but one of the reasons I have it is to, you know, sometimes people say, well, what is that? And it enables me to talk about a very good friend and a good family man, and talk about Lou Gehrig's disease, which is still remains a terrible disease that doesn't have a lot of money behind it, and it's still a mystery. And I traveled the world with my friend and another good friend of mine, David Cale, just in search of a cure, and that's worth a few stories in and of itself. The individuals you encounter that, you know, offer, you know, I think at times for a certain amount of money, a dream of a cure, and but sometimes that's all you have, and so it still remains just a tough disease, and to watch somebody go through it is equally troubling.
Yes, it is.
But it's so that's the tattoo on my back. So commemorate that. Mike Cunningham.
That's a great memorial for him, and it's something, you know, that keeps you remembering and keeps you going, and know to live your life as full as you can while you're here.
Absolutely, and he was a prime example. And I met a lot of people, when we were, looking around searching for a cure, if you will, and it seemed to afflict just the strongest personalities, just amazing people, and beautiful, mainly men in their early 50s. And so my friend was very young when he developed it, but just great people. And he was a school teacher, a head football coach, father of two, and was positive and hopeful to the very end. So it's humbling, to say the least.
Definitely.
Yes.
Now I have a question for you from my friend Stephanie that's on Twitter. She goes by Soap Fan Fiction, and she's a huge Soap fan, as you can tell by Soap Fan Fiction. And she's got the memory of, I don't even know what. They always say the memory of an elephant, but she's even better than that.
Yeah. I thought mine was pretty good, but.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She wanted to know how you liked working with the Soap 5 divas of cool, as she calls them, Maura West, Sarah Joy Brown, Katie McLean, and the women of AMC.
Wow, I that's a great question because I was really lucky to in the shows I've worked on, I was, and sometimes actors don't get this luck, but I was paired with some just awesome female performers that forced me to, quickly raise my game. And Marcy Walker was the first one on All My Children.
Yeah.
And not having worked in soap operas at all, and she was a huge soap opera star and a veteran at that point. It was so great to work with, and was giving and guided me and said, don't do this, be aware of this, and really kind of helped me navigate the waters there when I started. And all the women are such great performers. I mean, soaps can be criticized at times for their kind of implausible storylines and shitty acting, but none of the women I worked with, that aforementioned Fat Five or whatever she calls them, I don't know if Marcy was involved in part of that, but and Maura West and Sarah Brown and who else?
Katie McLean.
Katie, of course. All these girls, just to work with them, you're just amazed by, they're literally possessed with, they're so organic and believable and go there. I mean, the women on soap operas are there are many demands, emotional demands made of women that work on storylines on soap operas by virtue of the storylines there, and they can be completely insane storylines, but
right.
But none of those women phoned it in or gave less than 100%, and they're all just awesome actors, and so it really, again, it forced you to be prepared and work with them and not let it be a one-sided scene. And so, like I said, I was lucky with Marcy and Katie on All My Children and Sarah Brown As the World Turns and Maura West on As the World Turns, doing really difficult. And I think I raped and assaulted Maura West's character, and I think I beat up Sarah Brown. I actually killed Sarah Brown, and you can kind of like, before you start doing these scenes or before you meet these actresses, you start kind of visualizing, well, how this is going to play out, and then you meet them and you like, see how they're going to attack the scene and approach the arc of the storyline. You're like, okay, I've got to put my boots on today for the next 3 or 4 months, and so each show and each story, I was lucky to be thrown in with these wonderful actresses who really made me a lot better actor than I was, and very different actresses too, and great souls, but completely dedicated to what they're doing, and the networks got their money's worth with these girls because they asked them. Marcy Walker said it to me once. She goes, I'm a whore. I whore out my. She said I whore out my emotions for a price, and she's right. In the best way. She does not, meaning she doesn't phone it in. She goes where you have to go to make it real and make it work. But the price is exhausting. And then, like I said, the girls get the weight. Usually, the women on soap operas get the weight of that, the emotional storytelling, and the men kind of sit there and pat them on the back and say it's going to be okay,
Yeah.
And on occasion, we get stuff, but the men do certainly. But what did she call those?
She called them the 5 divas are cool. The soap 5 divas are cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the diva part, but certainly in terms of performers, they were freaking monsters. It was really great to work with them. And on Tainted Dreams, I got paired up with Alicia and then Terry. The same thing. I was like, all right, just
there's
took the
two
bar
more.
exam. Got to kick off the rust here and pull out some of my